Have you started Ragnar's Saga and caught yourself frustrated at the 4 hours that passed with just half the scenario done? Well, fear not, my intrepid sailor, for today we come with a spicy fast track for the longest scenario by far in the game. And before you roll your eyes at the thought of me repeating the most well-known trick for this scenario, where you capture the capped ram and friends and bring it to the Yums Vikings for a sweet fence hopping and murdering them, have in mind that this doesn't work anymore, so we can't even cheese the scenario that way. No. Today we will take the shortest way to finish this the correct way. Many experts were hired to come up with the shortest path towards a saga worthy of nightmares all over Europe. Before we jump into the action, some prep work is needed. Because although the story of Odin's favorite child has 50 goals, we only need to complete 30 of them to ascend to Valhalla. And we want in as fast as we can. To start, after long studies and research, our team has created a map grid to facilitate finding the goals. After that, we had to study the difficulty of each task given to us by the Allfather, its location, and the time required to complete each, leaving us with the final list of best objectives and the locations tagged on the map. Anyways, into the bloodshed we go. We load Ragnar and one of our villagers into the ship and send the other to gather more wood. The transport ship is sent north, for Rolf awaits us with the first goal point and an extra ship, which we send to find the Einstein brothers, while the other sails towards Shetney so a colony can be established. Many historians of the time wondered about the reason for such a start in the story, but all were dismembered for questioning the Allfather. 2 more victory points are in the bank, and as Ragnar arrives in the pillaging of Orkney, another colony is started. While our fierce warriors beat the monastery into flames, the ship is sent to scout around. This manifestation of destiny would bring a tear to Uncle Sam's eyes. After finding another colony spot in the Faroe Islands, our scout also finds some beach soldiers, who, although not contributing to the story directly, will come in handy soon. The ships convene in Orkney to reorganize, and the settlers sail towards the sheep and the Faroe Islands while the army goes south. Ragnar's appetite for destruction was insatiable, and the raiders march forth until being faced with Jews and women's worst enemy, Mel Gibson. Screaming that they were pagan made very little difference, and over half the army was slain by Gibson's fit of religious bigotry. In the Faroe Islands, another colony is created, for the terror and dismay of the sheep population. The remaining warriors march north, so a clearing can be made for yet another colony, this time in Scotland. Odin's warriors were fierce, but his villagers were dumbasses and needed orders for everything. With Scotland colonized, the soldiers boarded the ship again and sailed south to find Guthrum in the English swamps, while the other ship went to rescue Aud the Deep-Minded and her dead, Ketil Flatnose. And although debated why the Norse heroes had such names, it's pretty obvious it happened when they crashed their ship on this island. As the army convenes in another useless barren island, another longhouse is erected, for the colonization is far from over. Why do they not work? Ireland becomes the next destination, and we arrive greeted by Olaf the White, and yet another objective is completed. The army marches onto the land, while the useless fucking villagers wait around for a guy across the ocean to gather enough wood so they can build a lumber camp here. The army finds a glowing man, and after a short fight it's known that it was King Æella of Ireland, another little victory for the Book of Ragnar. While the army marched back with the non-existent spoils of war, the ship continued scouting the coast until they found Grim Cambam, a long-lost childhood friend of Ragnar who sailed to Ireland to soul search. Waiting for the ships, news arrived that his first son was born, named Ivar the Boneless. And you may think, why is he called that way? Well, according to ChatGPT, there are a few theories, but they all suck besides this one. He had no bones. Or very weak ones. It's theorized that he could have had osteogenesis imperfecta, meaning he may have had bones made of cardboard, or just baby bones. But this one also sucks. Not when you think about the fact that this dude could have had been so disabled Stephen Hawking would have called him a and he still led armies to glory and bloodshed. Anyways, army back in the ships and onto a random island with the monastery, but only the generals disembark, as they are so degenerate, the priests don't even try converting them. And once they are dismembered, the pillaging begins. Why are they so useless? What's happening here that they don't want to work? With the small island cleared, we can plan yet another one of Odin's colonies. At least after we manage to collect more wood from these 2 lazy fucks. On the search for more objectives, we stop to bring one of our villagers and research Ulfbrek's swords for that sweet +4 attack on infantry. After a quick sail around England, we arrive at Wessex in the south with Olaf the White laying down steel on the sergeants. But we proceed with caution as the Yellow Army is fierce and big. We repeat the process until it's safe to unload the troops and march down the city center fully. With part of the army slain, the king charges in a valiant attempt, just to be decapitated before the rest of his forces arrive, opening the doors for the plundering of the city and England's first Norse colony, right in front of the old church. What are these villagers doing, for fuck's sake? With the new lands properly established, the army boards once again, but towards home at this stage. It's time for Ragnar to unite the Norse kingdoms. The planning ahead of schedule yielded a lot more saga points than could ever been predicted for the time taken, and the saga progressed at a much faster rate than previously expected. Once more bringing to surface criticism of Ragnar's writing and fantastical creativity, as he was called by the Heathen Journal of May 876. Needless to say, both writers and editors of the article were skinned alive. Norway was the easiest kingdom to conquer and an obvious starting point, and since the army was mainly composed by heroes, the first expedition breezed through their defenses almost intact. With victory came also Ragnar's second son, Bjorn Ironside, the terror of the Mediterranean. The march continued north, fighting the savage Sami and crossing frozen lakes, until news arrived of raiders torching Ragnar's home village. Bjorn and Ivar are sent back to rescue the village, while the remaining army continues the journey. To make matters worse, the raiders also captured the brand new holding of Ragnar, a move that would slow progress considerably. But just like speed bumps or enemy ships, nothing more than just an inconvenience. Ragnar's forces rolled back to the first settlement, and after a short stomping, control was reestablished. With more population capacity, extra soldiers are trained, and the march north resumes. Despite the main goal being the unification of Norway, there were more Sami to be slaughtered, and the animal companions of the murder-maiden Lagertha to be killed, so she would join the party. While the rabid platoon makes its way back, the new ship was sent far east to explore the map, for Rurik the troublemaker waited for rescue in the Slavic lands. The ship also found Dyer the Stranger and his small tribute village, and a small training dock, completing 10% of our goal in a single swoop through the east. 7 idle villagers. What are you guys doing? Back in Norway, the army approaches the last Norwegian village necessary, and without much of a resistance or fight, the garrison falls, crowning Ragnar the King of Norway. With 2/3 of the necessary objectives completed, Ragnar turned his attention to the Norselands, with the Kingdom of Sweden as his next immediate goal. But first a little stop to kidnap the magical cow Sibylla. A prophetic cow? Utter nonsense. It undermines the gravity of the text, and reads less like a heroic myth and more like a barnyard. Aslaug was finally rescued by the army and Rurik from the east, with her joining the army and Troublemaker being sent to the swamps. The forceful civilization of Sweden starts from the end, and although some soldiers are lost to shaman chants, the bloodshed is not slowed down, and the first piece of surstrumming domino falls just as Rurik finds Rorik in the Frisian swamps. He is brought back to the ship for some rest after being in such a shithole, and they sail south to rescue another poor soul trapped in hell. In French lands, more troops of doom lie in despair for being so far from home, struggling with meals of snails and weak surrender without a fight. Hashstein was close to giving up when Rurik arrived to save his soul. Ragnar Saga, a story of friendship and brotherly love. Anyways, back in Sweden, the main army continues to plow through and massacre the Swedish Jarls without any mercy. Men, women, children, ships, all were dismembered and thrown into the fire, for only the crown mattered to Lothbrok. It's not because you're wearing red that you have to be communist and refuse to work, you lazy fucks! The nightmare of Sweden continued without hindrances, and only one village remained on the way. And this time reinforcements were coming. But in a moment of blindness, Rurik and the Second Army walked into the village without realizing where they were, and get trapped in the narrow alley. They managed to escape to the open area, but the losses are great, and as the main army arrives, Rurik falls to the steel of the enemy Jarl. A moment of silence for the troublemaker. 26 out of 30 objectives completed in 1 hour and 18 minutes. Very good so far. While the army prepares for the final tasks, another raid begins, and in panic, the ship finds a lost island just off the coast. A couple of soldiers board the ship and are sent to explore, and are almost eaten alive by a Komodo dragon on holiday in the area. An unacceptable offense, and the whole army boards to teach the lizard some manners. Know your place, trash. For one of the remaining tasks, settling in Slavic lands was chosen, and because no one wanted to miss out on the fun, the whole army was sent there. The folwark was placed next to the river for easy access, and the army ventured deep into the region to fight nomads and collect spoils of war, as the coffers were running dangerously low. Despite the nomads not being the richest folk in the land, every coin helps the war effort. Colony secured and gold pillaged, and the intrepid warriors of chaos sail back. For the second to last piece of the saga is yet another crown on Ragnar's head, Denmark. Even though their strength at seas instilled fear among the best, Ragnar and his army were above that, and piece by piece, the drunks of Denmark swore forced fealty to Odin's thunderclap. Ragnar, the Triple King, united Norway, Sweden and Denmark under his crown. One objective remained, but before that could be focused on, a feast was had to celebrate those who departed us and to replace the gold cost of the warriors with food. Just for a brave volunteer to arrive at the land of fire and ice and complete the final step needed for the boss battle. Yes, because no good story ends without an epic boss battle. This time against the Jom's Vikings. Although it's probably worth noting that this is a highly unrealistic part of the scenario, as the Jom Vikings only became a thing around 985, about 120 years after the scenario happens. But creative liberties on the devs' part. It makes sense to have chosen warriors of Odin to fight as a showdown for one of the craziest fuckers in history, so I'm not complaining. Anyways, in preparation for it, we sent every soldier available under Ragnar's command to camp under the Jom's gates. Along with any other units we can afford training in the meanwhile. And if you haven't played the scenario, you may think this is overkill, but if the Jom's Vikings were this strong, I fully believe Odin was sponsoring their shenanigans. Look at this machine gun. No match for the Great Heathen Army, but still scary. Big boss of the North defeated, and no free play for this guy, only victory. In 2 hours, 20 minutes and 8 seconds. Ooh-wee, pretty good time considering how long this is supposed to be. Although I gotta be honest, I have played this scenario at least 5 times since it came out, so the progression for this flowy run came a bit easier. I think I can lower this time to around 1 hour and 30 minutes if I focus properly and map the easiest task better. Also if they fix the fucking villagers. Anyways, the partial time now stands at 223 hours, 11 minutes and 12 seconds. And next we're going to Constantinople. There's a coup to be done.